What's up, guys? It's Ben with 2020 election predictions, and today I'm going to talk about the debate that just transpired. I assume that y'all all tuned in. I thought it was crazy. I was texting people, watching with people. I really do not think it was a great debate to watch. I thought it was kind of a childish debate. I I mean, I just thought that both camps were kind of going at each other rather than maybe focusing on policy. And I was just listening to the post debate analysis by ABC News, and they were kind of saying the same thing. I really don't know if I can say definitively that either candidate won. I frankly think that Biden probably is going to come out of that debate more happy than Trump. Um, I I think that kind of just Trump went he wasn't as messaged and disciplined as he needed to. Definitely Trump had some good one-liners against Biden, but it's really hard to know how this is going to get interpreted by the people and also just kind of by the pundits. What I'm kind of thinking is that the pundits, all the people on TV are gonna unequivocally say that Biden won this debate, even though it was a nasty debate. I just heard the lead anchor on ABC News said it was the worst presidential debate he's ever watched, and these are political experts who watched a lot. We didn't really see a lot in terms of policy. We saw a lot just kind of back and forth back on COVID. Biden saying that he would handle COVID better, while Trump saying like, "Look, I've shut down the border off of China," while you said not to. Um, I'm going to be really interested to see what the polls do after this. My first inclination is going to be that the polls aren't going to change that much. Going into this debate, I was looking online. 65% of bettors were betting on Trump to win this debate, and I really don't think that you can say that Trump won this debate. I think if anything, you can probably say that Biden did better. I think that Biden's expectations were just so low. I really don't think that Biden did great by any means. But just think that going in, because Biden's expectations were probably so low that he probably kind of did better than Trump, in the realm of that he beat expectations. I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. I thought that Chris Wallace, the moderator, did a pretty good job considering the circumstances. I thought that he kind of tried to rein each candidate in, but it was hard when both candidates were trying to speak over each other. I definitely think that Trump had some strong moments, especially when he was kind of talking about the law and order, and like when he was just really disciplined on certain subjects. I really think it hurt him when kind of Trump went after Hunter Biden and kind of talked about his cocaine issues and stuff like that. I really don't think that the American people generally like to see kind of those personal attacks. But it was overall just like a crazy debate. So I want to move to the chat to kind of see what y'all think. What y'all's opinions were on the debate. I thought that kind of Biden just needed to do, or did what he needed to do. His expectations were very low, but I thought that he hung in there and probably did what he needed to do. Biden is definitely not at his prime. We could see this sometimes that I thought he slipped up. He definitely said some things that weren't true. But Trump, on the other hand, and going into this, I thought that this was going to be Trump's downfall. Trump was very energetic. He was very aggressive, but I almost think that he did this too much. I thought he kept on interrupting Biden and kind of doing this levied personal attacks on him. I think this worked on Hillary Clinton some because, I mean, people just really didn't like Hillary Clinton, like, even swing voters and even left-leaning voters, um, they just they didn't like Hillary Clinton, and so I think when kind of Trump personally attacked her, maybe kind of exposed her corruption, that this stuck. But I think with Biden, I think that maybe Trump was a little kind of overly energetic and overly aggressive here, and that might have been his downfall because I think so much that the people are kind of just so tired of this like partisan attacks on each other. And I mean, Biden was by no means like a really cordial, nice guy. I mean, he was doing this too, and some people might see this as like kind of Trump being a strong man and Biden being weak. However, I think most people are probably going to sympathize with Biden, and Biden didn't just completely like shrink down and take it all necessarily. I saw some lines trending on Twitter, like when Biden was like, "Won't you just shut up, man?" So I mean, I think that was a sentiment that a lot of people might have been thinking that Biden verbalized. Frankly, I mean, I got a bunch of texts um, with this, and I think that a lot of people are thinking like, are these really kind of our two top intellectual political minds? Because I really don't think that many people think this at all. So I kind of want to go to the chat right now and answer some of your questions. I frankly thought that Chris Wallace was a pretty good moderator. I think he went through kind of all the issues that I think matter right now, whether it was COVID, whether it was the Supreme Court, whether it was the economy, whether it was kind of like racial justice, and then finally when he was talking about the election. I think these are very good subjects to bring up, and we even got to kind of some of the more issues that I thought were going to be left out, like healthcare and the environment. I thought that at times Wallace kind of was definitely favoring Biden, but then when we got to the law and order section, I definitely think that many of Wallace's questions helped Trump because I think Wallace was kind of trying to use Trump's talking points in talking against Biden. I'm curious at what were y'all's opinions on Chris Wallace? In the 2016 presidential debates, I thought he was the best moderator there. And I think that the reason why Chris Wallace was chosen as the first one because he was going to try to set the tone. I think this first debate was crazier than any of the 2016 debates. It was messy, and I mean, I really think it's really hard to kind of to try to moderate these debates because I mean, I really just don't see how you stop either candidate from kind of talking over each other. I mean, it's a really hard job to do. And so it was really interesting. Par, thank you so much for the super chat. If y'all kind of have any questions that you want me to answer, the super chat function is a great way to do that. But there you go. One thing that I don't think will be very talked about that much is kind of like the humor in the debate. I think definitely Trump was kind of trying to like do some trolling here and there. So I definitely think that voters might pick up on that well. I think that one thing that a lot of people don't realize is like most people did not watch all like 90 minutes of the presidential debate. What is going to be taken is kind of small snippets, kind of the sound bites, and like you're going to see them on Twitter, you're going to see them on cable news, and you might even see them in campaign ads. I think that both presidential candidates had gaffes here and there. I think Biden on some specific things, he was saying at one point that he kind of supported the Green New Deal, but kind of walked that back. And I mean, I think one of Trump's main kind of points was kind of trying to tie Biden to the radical left. I actually kind of think that Biden did a pretty deft job in saying like, look, but Biden said, I support law enforcement, I support law and order. I don't want to defund the police. So I think that Biden was kind of trying to run to the middle on a lot of the issues that kind of Biden has been um, uh, attacking Trump for. However, I thought one point that that stuck for Trump is when he kind of tried to ask Biden, what is one law enforcement group that has endorsed you? And Biden simply couldn't answer because all the law enforcement agencies are supporting Trump. So I thought that was one point that stuck. I thought that if Trump maybe tried to do kind of more of these kind of questions towards Biden that he wouldn't have an answer to, that would definitely hurt him. I definitely thought when Chris Wallace asked Biden if he was thinking about packing the courts, Biden did not have an answer. He completely dodged that question, and Trump and Chris Wallace were both pressing him on it. I think that this is going to be one issue that's going to hurt Biden a lot. I mean, Biden kind of just skirmished around it. I think they only kind of spent about 10 to 15 seconds on that. So really, I don't really think it hurt him that much. But that's something that's definitely going to be of interest, like for the Trump campaign, because I bet if you poll the average American, they don't support packing the courts just because it's like so kind of like out there. I mean, Franklin Delano Roosevelt tried to pack the courts in I think it was like in the mid 1930s, and he was one of the most popular presidents ever, and he definitely couldn't do this. Overall, I think that both candidates probably did pretty poorly overall. Parthenic, who did a super chat, asked, "What is your performance rating out of 10 for Biden and Trump?" Um, I I would probably rate them about even. I would maybe put Trump at a 3 out of 10 and maybe Biden as a 4 out of 10. And let me kind of explain this. I mean, if you do them relatively speaking in terms of each other, I think they're pretty even. But because I think Biden's expectations were so low, and I mean, Trump supporters were hyping this up, saying, "Look, Biden's going to get destroyed." Um, all this stuff. I think this might have actually hurt Trump because people were kind of expecting Trump to destroy Biden, and I really don't think this happened. I thought both candidates really didn't do that well. And I think Trump really needed to win this debate, and I don't think that unequivocally we can say that he won the debate. I definitely think that Trump is going to go back and maybe do some more prep for the second and third presidential debates because I think he's going to need something to happen if he kind of wants to turn around the poll numbers right now. And I mean, I don't necessarily like blindly trust the polls right now, but I mean, Biden is up overall, and I mean, Trump is going to need something to definitely change if he wants to go overall. So if any of y'all want me to kind of focus on a certain topic, I have 75 people in right now. This is awesome. Thank you all for joining. If y'all want to do a super chat and you click on the $ under and kind of write a question, you can even do like $1 or $2. It'll pop up really big, and I'll kind of focus on that question for the remainder of our live stream feature. How much do I think this debate affected the election is one question I'll kind of pick up before I get some super chats coming in. I don't think this one debate is going to affect the election too much. One thing that I was talking about before is like a big portion of the population has already started to vote, and people are going to start to keep on voting. I don't think many people who are watching the debate were not really sure who they're going to vote for. In fact, I want to ask the chat: are there any undecided voters right now in the chat? Because I feel like people's political opinions are so entrenched. People are kind of so partisan that I really don't think this is going to move the needle that much. I think that if Trump had done really well and Biden had just looked really weak, I think this maybe could shift the election maybe by like 4 or 5 percentage points, which is how many undecided voters that we kind of see in the polls, which is a lot less from 2016 when we kind of I think we saw about like 10% of undecided voters, and they overwhelmingly kind of shifted towards Trump towards the end. There's not as many undecided voters, and Biden is hovering right around kind of the 50% mark in the national polls, and that's kind of where he needs to be to win. So even if like almost all the undecided voters do go towards Trump, it's still going to be a very close race. I mean, I think if all the undecided voters went towards Trump, then he would win. Then Trump would win. However, I really just don't know many undecided voters. I mean, in my kind of social interactions on a daily basis, it seems like everyone has an opinion already on this election. And I think most people were watching the debate tonight more for entertainment and to kind of see what each president was going to be like. And I think this is different maybe from past cycles where people watch the presidential debates to learn who they're going to vote for. I think like Trump is just kind of in the media, kind of in the he's talked about so much that everyone has an opinion on Trump. No one's gonna be like, oh, like Trump, like I don't really know, like I've never heard of him. Like I mean, everyone has heard of Trump, and they all know something about him. Definitely, more people are more educated, maybe on politics, and they know other things, but I definitely think that like most people have probably already made up their mind, and the one presidential debate would only kind of shift the trajectory of the race if there was kind of a big development somewhere. So I'm at 17 minutes right now. I'll go as long as people want me to, and to encourage you to keep on going, you can always do kind of a super chat and kind of write something that you want me to talk about. It pops up really big, and I'd love to do that. One thing I want to focus on while I'm waiting for that is the last debate topic that kind of talked about the election and kind of mail-in voting and what that is going to look like. I do not think we're going to know the results of the election on November 3rd or November 4th. I mean, we heard Chris Wallace and Biden and even Trump say on the debate stage that in 8 states, the mail-in ballots are not checked until election day, which is November 3rd. And kind of with this overflow of mail-in ballots, I don't think we necessarily have the voting infrastructure to know who is going to win on election night. I think that this election is going to be very, very close. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that like Biden is going to win in a landslide or Trump is going to win in a landslide. I still think this election is going to be very close. And I disagree with pundits that say that this election has already been decided. And I think most of them kind of are on Biden's side. They're like, oh, Biden is going to win a landslide. I don't think this is the case at all. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I do think that Biden has an advantage right now. But I think kind of with all the craziness with mail-in voting, with COVID, with kind of just a lot of things going around. I mean, I think voter fraud is a potential threat, and kind of with like foreign actors. I mean, for that China and Russia are trying to interfere. I mean, I think there's a lot of very variability. And with Trump as the president, he has the power to do things that Biden doesn't have the power to do as a presidential candidate. So I think we have a lot left in this race. I think there are going to be some October surprises that we can't even anticipate right now. I mean, we thought that Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death was going to kind of be the last big thing in this election. It's really cool to get some more people kind of on here right now, and I really hope that y'all are liking the live stream right now. And please go to the chat and even do some super chats to tell me what are y'all's opinions. Alan says, no minds were changed, was expecting a Biden gaffe, didn't really happen. I honestly probably agree with you pretty much. I don't think that many people are going to change their mind. I don't think many people are going to go from Trump to Biden or Biden to Trump. I think a lot of people's minds were already made up. And I don't think Biden gaffed as much as he has in the past. I mean, Biden has even called himself a gaffe machine. I definitely think he made a few gaffes, but I definitely think that Biden exceeded his expectations. And I think kind of Trump probably met his expectations. I think no one was really surprised when kind of Trump came out fairly aggressively. Um, but I would really be interested in hearing more of your opinions. Oh, Twitter, it incentivizes kind of these 10-second sound bites because they're easy to watch. And so that's why I think that's one reason why we've kind of seen a shift from more kind of like policy focused debates to kind of what we saw tonight. Kind of we kind of saw these like one-liners. I think, but Biden had one that I thought was kind of funny, but it was definitely rehearsed. But like, I mean, I think one of Trump's main talking points is he's like, I've been in office for 47 months. I've done more in my 47 months than you, Biden, have done in your 47 years. So I think that was one kind of main point that Biden was trying to drive home, or no, that Trump was trying to drive home. I think Biden was kind of trying to just do this message that Trump is a liar. He's a bully. And one kind of segment that I thought that I would be really want your opinions on this. But when Biden was kind of talking about how he thinks that Trump and his people look at the American people with contempt, I think this is one thing that Trump did in 2016 when he really exposed when Hillary Clinton was like half of Trump supporters are what we can call in the basket of deplorables. But I think Biden's kind of trying to put this more on him and saying that Trump is looking at the American people kind of with contempt. And so just looking at the chats right now, I can see that definitely people have their opinions on whether you're a Trump supporter or a Biden supporter. But one thing that I want to emphasize that on my channel, I really try to be as unbiased as possible because I think that in our super polarized media system that it's kind of hard to find people without bias because people kind of always have their political opinions. But I really think if you're actually looking for the truth that's kind of fair and balanced, that you really kind of have to put your own political opinions aside and look at things objectively. So right now I'm at about 24 minutes. I'll probably go for about 35 to 40 minutes. I really looking to y'all to kind of see what you think I should talk about here. I definitely want to keep y'all updated on kind of all the updates going forward. I think that every day now we're something crazy is going to come out. I mean, it's really interesting kind of seeing all the polls coming out because there's a lot of polls that are coming out on a daily basis. Do I think this debate is going to kind of move the polls that much? No. The polls have been very, very steady coming on here. And if the polls are right, then Biden's going to win. If the polls are consistently wrong, and the New York Times actually wrote a piece, if there's the same bias in the polls as there was in 2016, then Trump would narrowly win. I mean, it would be super, super narrow, and I mean, with everything happening, it's going to be very contested. I don't think the polls are going to be as off as they were in 2016, but I think with every poll, and I mean, even the pollsters will say this, Nate Silver will say this, there is a margin of error. And in many of the states, in Florida and North Carolina, even in Pennsylvania, I think barely, Trump is within the margin of error. I think in Pennsylvania, it's kind of right on the borderline. But if Trump is still in the margin of error in states that can get him to 270, then he definitely should not be counted out. Tomorrow I would do an updated presidential election video, kind of going state by state, and talking about how I think the debate has impacted these things. One thing that we kind of we aren't talking about tonight, but I think it will end up being very important, is kind of the Senate elections, the kind of effect that the presidential race will have on that. But I think all these things are very, very interesting.
Are you on live? Nice.
Thanks. But yeah, so if any of y'all in the chat kind of want me to focus on one thing for a while, if there's anything particular in the debate that you want me to comment on, I'd be happy to do that. So do I think that this debate is going to move the needle in terms of like the polls, in terms of if Biden or Trump is ahead? Probably not. Did a bunch of people tune in? I bet a lot of people tuned in. I kind of wonder if a lot of people kind of turned the TV off in the first 20 minutes. I don't think people were very impressed. There was a lot of kind of yelling at each other, especially in the first 15 minutes, when I think each candidate was trying to be the strongest. And you saw kind of Trump trying to talk over Biden a lot in kind of that first 15-minute segment that was kind of supposed to be dedicated on the Supreme Court. It ended up kind of going into healthcare. I was actually surprised that kind of it moved into healthcare, because I thought that Trump maybe should have kind of kept it focused on the Supreme Court, because I think it's more of a winning issue than healthcare is. Yeah. And I see Koja, man, I walked out sometimes due to the cringe. Yeah, I think this was a sentiment. I mean, I was watching the whole thing as I was interested in it. But I mean, sometimes I was thinking, I was like, are these two people are really our brightest minds right now? It just made me think that I was like, it was just crazy. All right, well, if y'all kind of have any specific things that you want me to focus on, I haven't seen a lot of super chats, which is fine. I don't want to put any pressure on people to do that, but that's always kind of a fun thing to kind of focus on one particular topic or issue that y'all are definitely interested in. It's definitely late, and I know this debate was pretty late. It was at 9 p.m. Eastern. I think that was so people on the West Coast could watch too. One thing I think is pretty interesting. I actually saw this article. Most of the states that matter are actually kind of concentrated more on the East Coast, whether it's like Florida, Pennsylvania, or North Carolina. And I definitely guess there are some states like Michigan and Wisconsin, but and not that really matters, but I think most people when they're watching election coverage that they tend to kind of watch the votes coming in at first, but tend to ignore like California and other votes because they don't really matter. All right, guys. Well, if you don't have any more questions, I'll probably end this live stream for tonight, but be on the lookout for a new video tomorrow. I'm going to kind of talk about kind of all the updates on how the debate affected kind of the state-by-state race. I'm going to look at the betting odds. I think the betting odds actually have shifted a lot in Biden's favor just in the past 2 hours, which kind of shows that I think that Biden probably had a better performance than anticipated. But all kind of the 50 people on right now, if you haven't subscribed, please do so right now and hit the bell notification so you can kind of get all the updates on my videos right now. Koja Man from Chile, thank you so much for your super chat. I appreciate that kind of all my fans are from around the world. So thank you so much. And it's been really cool getting to know some of y'all. So I appreciate everyone coming on the chat. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow, and I will be sure to do some more live streams here and there as the debates keep on happening and as the news coverage keeps on going. All right, see you guys.